Hey Code Websters, today is the start of our machine learning series. We'll utilize our knowledge of machine learning to rebuild libraries from absolute scratch. We'll be using Vue and Vuetify, something I'll explain today. I'll assume you're kind of familiar with Vue. If you're not, I'm going to release an introduction tutorial in the future. But before we begin developing our machine learning system, let's actually try to explain what machine learning is, and more specifically, what we're going to be doing today. Generally, machine learning is simply the statistical analysis of data. Nothing more, nothing less. To explain this in practice, today we'll develop a first-level linear regression system. A first-level linear regression system is basically just a straight line through a bunch of data points. You have a bunch of data here. Maybe you have this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, this. Okay, I want to develop a straight line which minimizes the distance between the points and this straight line. So you generally get like a formula per se to analyze our whole data. To show you what we're going to be building in this series, I've actually developed a system before we came in. So we have our actual formula. All right, so I've just used formulas to develop this. And we've had our machine learning based formula, which is what our computer can calculate. And you can see it's off by a bit, but on average, it's pretty similar. We have our mean squared error, and that means how good it is at fitting. We have our mean error, which is obviously larger than our mean squared error. We have our learning rate, and we have our training level. All these will be explained in the code. Then we have our actual values and our linear regression value. So if I go here, I can show you my actual values and then my linear regression value, which is off by a bit. It's a bit finicky because it's right on the same line. But yeah, so you've got 135, 134.8. Okay, without further ado, let's jump right into this. Okay, everyone, let's get right into it. So first of all, go to your actual directories. So I'm gonna go to my directories, data, ls, and there's nothing in that file. So what we next want to do is we want to straight away create our actual Vue client. So go npm install g Vue CLI. If you haven't installed npm itself, that's a whole nother tutorial in itself. I have a link below which explains it a bit more in depth. Okay. Now that that's installed, I've already installed it, so I'm not going to reinstall it. It might give you a few errors. Don't worry about it. As long as it works, it works. Next, we're actually going to create our system. So go Vue create data analysis. We'll call it that. Okay, this brings up a preset. Now, you're going to go down there and press manually select features. You're just going to press enter. Next, we're going to actually manually invert which sectors we want to be using in our app. So we need router, so go ahead and press space, Vuex, then go ahead and press enter. Use history mode, you can just set it as history mode. I'll just say no right now. We're gonna use prettier, and we're gonna go lint on save. We're gonna say in our package.json file, no, don't use this as a, whatever that is. Let's go straight ahead. All right, now that that's done, and it should have taken a whole lot of time because it's installing all that stuff, let's go right into it. So go cd data analysis, ls, and that should have a bunch of files like readme file, babel config, package.json, and all that type of stuff. And you got your src source folder as well. Finally, we want to actually go ahead and type vue add Vuetify. While installing that, something should come up, a preset. Just type in the default. When Vuetify is added, we next want to use Chart.js to display our data. So let's go ahead and install that. Phew, now that all that installation is done, and there's a lot of installation, we want to actually run our system. So go npm run serve. All right, as you can see, we've got our Vuetify up right now. Everything's working. This is the Vuetify template. Now all we need to do is actually edit our code. So let's go ahead to Visual Studio Code. I've got mine up right here. And we're going to go straight ahead and actually change our app.vue file. So go to source folder, app.vue, and you should see a bunch of this other stuff. So what I want you to next do is actually go to my GitHub account. I'm going to bring that up next. It should be linked in the description. My GitHub account linked to the description should show you this page. Go to 2 commits. And because I forgot to actually commit, I just have a bunch of code. So go on there. And I think down at 50 something, 52, I think. It's app.vue. So if you search that up, you should find it. Yeah, it's 52. I want you to basically go next here, view file. That'll bring up the file. Go raw, Control A, Control C, and basically just copy that here to our app.vue file. And I'll kind of explain what's happening here. Okay, so straight away we've got up to around here. Before the router view, we've basically just got a design for the nav bar. So you go Vuex Machina, Vuex Machina, the magnify button, the MDR reply, etc. This is all on the actual Vuetify website, which gives you a basic nav bar, which is I just edited a bit. So just copy that down there. You've got your script here. We have nothing actually showing here because we don't want the app.vue folder to do much, just show a bunch of designs. And the router view, which is controlled by, if you go here, router index.js. Basically, the router view displays whatever component we have here, and the component is actually get from a view file. So that's what we're going to do next to actually show our data. So as we're going to add a data page, let's go ahead down here and add another path. So what you can do is just copy that, write a few bits of code. And I've just zoomed in for you a bit. So this actually has the constant routes. We've changed that to path.home, and we've just changed this a bit. You see these lines here are due to the prettifier. And if you press npm run lint on your terminal, when you actually turn off the app, it'll fix that immediately for you. Now, as you can see, we're importing that data.vue, but we actually need a data.vue. You know, I'm going to call that data page.vue just so it makes a bit more sense. So, data page.vue. So now let's actually create that. Going to views, new file. And I'm going to create a new view file. So let's go template, and template's basically what we're going to show on our page script, and that just basically handles all our logic. And sometimes you have the style section, but we're not going to add that in this question. Okay, now that that's done, that's basically our whole view up there. We don't need anything else there. Essentially, we're just going to get the idea of this in our script, and we're going to use that to change our code. So let's go ahead to our script section. Okay guys, so I'm going to try to explain this code to you. I know it's a bit much, but it's actually really simple. So before we do that though, we're going to actually go back to our Ubuntu terminal. I'm going to create a new instance of that. And we're going to go ahead and actually just go to our directory. So we can just get rid of all these yellow lines you're seeing. Now by running that function, we essentially fix all the errors, styling errors in our code. So it's actually pretty nifty if you're lazy like me, or I like to say lazy smart like me, you can get rid of that really easily. Okay, now that you see that, all the errors have been fixed and you don't see that green line. All right, the yellow line. Let me try to explain that. So first of all, we actually imported this chart function from Chart.js, and we've installed that package already. And so that basically does a whole lot of stuff in the back end. You can read the docs, but basically we're only going to focus on how it actually functions to help us. Next, you actually got data from chart.data.js. That's because the chart needs some data, obviously, not so surprising there. We'll create that file soon. Now we have our view data section, right? So this is all your data that you're going to be using. So all you have to do is return. I could have something else called hey man, right? And then if I could post here something like paragraph this dot hey. You need to do that, and that will basically display the word man there. So it's basically variables like how you have in JavaScript. We have our methods, which are kind of like functions in JavaScript. So what we have here first is the constant ctx equals document.get element ID by chart ID. We call this function down here, so you can see we're using planet chart. We're using planet chart, and we've given the ID right there. So we're basically going to do a bunch of things with the canvas here. Next, we're actually getting the constant myChart, and that's basically a new object. So we go new chart, and you have to put in the actual place you're going to put it in, the type of data, the options, and that's going to be explained by this .planet chart data, and that's actually imported. Now, another thing you might have noticed is that we've called this twice, and to access data in Vue, you actually need to make sure it's in the data section. It might be a bit annoying, but for some reason, that's how they did it. Finally, we have the mounted section. So this basically says, hey, after everything is loaded, the IDs are loaded, everything's loaded, then I want you to actually do this function. So finally, now let's actually go develop our data. So as you can see, it goes out twice, then goes to plugins folder and chart.js. So it goes out first there, right? So you've got it here, goes out once, and then goes out twice, then goes to plugins. Viewify.js just there. So we're going to create a new plugin called Chart.js. Next, I want you to actually go back to our GitHub, and we're going to copy something else there. Don't worry, it's not a lot of code. It's just a bunch of data code. So just go Control F, const, and just down here. Unfortunately, my GitHub is actually updated to the next video, so you might be confused. So don't worry too much. Just get all the stuff from there. So what we're going to first do is make this a lot easier for us. And roar. Everything from down here. Okay, just copy all that, Control C, Control V, and we're going to replace a few things. First of all, let's just get rid of everything except that, because we're not going to be using that right now. Then we want to actually change these to be all Y values and X values, so go Y values there. Right, that's all good. Obviously, it's giving us an error now. Finally, we need to set our data. So we're going to call this section actual data inputted to chart.js. But we need a few other things for this to work. So now we've set some values we'll be using to actually generate our data. We have our gradient and our y-intercept, and this basically means we're going to be using y equals real grad times x plus the real y-intercept. Now to actually generate that, we can't generate functions in code as everyone's understood, because we can't have infinitesimally small distances. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to actually go up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and use that to mimic a y equals mx plus c system. Let's go ahead and do that. So finally, now we need to actually generate the border colors. To understand why we need to do that, in a scatter graph, in which we're using here, each point must have a different color, or it can have the same color, but we need to specify that. So let's just go loop that depending on how many data points we have and set it to be the same color. So now that's pretty much done. Let's go see if that works. So let's go to our actual server here. And this already give us an error here. It says relative module not found. We had the name wrong, so let's go change that. I've changed it already. Refresh that, and now you can actually see our code generating a long line, and this just should be the exact same values. You can change how this line is looking by actually changing the parameters. So let's go ahead and back to our Chart.js. Let's set the gradient to be steeper, so maybe even 20. Set our y-intercept to be 5, and even set our data points to be 1,000. Now that should update immediately. As you can see, it's a lot more clustered there because there's so many different values. Clicking onto one. Okay guys, so this is the basic setup right now. Next week we'll actually finish it off by showing you how to implement a really simple linear regression with some pre-answered data we have. And then the week after that, we're actually going to show you how you can upload maybe an Excel file or a CSV file, immediately read that, and actually just do a linear regression on a bunch of data, which is essentially machine learning. Yeah, so hit that like button if you liked how this looked, and if you just want to be able to make graphs on Vue, this is how you can do it as well. Thanks and goodbye.